While we can pass most configuration options to the TypeScript compiler, we can also make use of a dedicated file called tsconfig.json, which will hold all the project's configurations. tsconfig.json must be in the root of a project. Of course, we can create this file manually ourselves, but we can also tell the compiler to create it for us using tsc-init. This will initialize a TypeScript project and create a tsconfig file with some default configurations. Let's quickly go over some of the configurations. The first option is the target, where we specify the EMAScript version we are targeting. By default, it is ES5, but we can set it to be any of these values, that is ES 2015, ES 2016, ES 2017, and so on. The next option is module, which specifies the module type to be used. By default, it is CommonJS, but we can also specify any of these values. We also have the option to specify if we want JavaScript files to be compiled as well. This file is heavily commented so as to give us an idea of what each option does, so we can go over them and use them as appropriate. Now let's reproduce the options we have from the command line. So we are going to set the output directory to be dixt directory. Now we need a way to specify the TypeScript file to be compiled. There are two ways to achieve that. The first one is using a files property. Which will contain an array of TypeScript files we want to compile. But in our case, we only have just one file, which is Now let's try recompiling our code by simply running tsc. Again, we have the same output with a slight difference because we specify in the tsconfig file that we want strict type checking. The other option is to make use of the include property. So let's comment this out. Include. This also takes an array, but instead of a list of file paths, this takes a list of glob-like file patterns, such as src/**/**. What this will do is include every files inside this directory, as well as any subdirectory within it. In addition to include, we can also specify an exclude property, which is a complete opposite of the include property, where we can specify the files or directories we don't want to be compiled, such as node modules. Rerunning the compiler should give us the same output, as we can see. To make sure everything is indeed working, let's update this file once more. I'm going to remove the comments, save, then run the compiler. And we have our generated JavaScript code.